In the year 2045, the election season had become a spectacle more dazzling than a Broadway show. Candidates didn't just campaign, they performed. The grandest stage of all was set up in the heart of New York City, where neon lights flickered and holographic projections danced in the air. Each candidate boasted powers that had been genetically enhanced to outshine the rest, flames shooting from fingertips, the ability to fly, and even talking to animals, though only if those animals were squirrels, apparently. On that fateful afternoon, Charlie Wells found himself at the wrong place at the right time. He was just a regular guy, a 30-something office worker whose biggest claim to fame was a half-eaten sandwich he'd left in his desk drawer for too long. But as he ambled through the crowd, his lunch suddenly took flight, propelled by an exuberant candidate demonstrating their aerial skills. The sandwich soared through the air and, in a comic twist of fate, landed right in the hair of Zara Steele, the leading candidate known for her ability to charm voters and manipulate minds. The crowd erupted in laughter as Zara, a tall woman with striking silver hair and a dazzling smile, whipped around to find the source of the sandwich assault. "Did you throw this at me?" she exclaimed, narrowing her eyes. Charlie, face flushing crimson, found himself face to face with the media darling of the election. No. But if I had, I'd say it was a bold statement on the culinary choices of our city." The laughter grew louder, and a spark ignited in Charlie's mind. Perhaps this was his moment. Charlie, with no powers and no political background, realized that sometimes, all it took was the courage to step into the spotlight. The crowd buzzed with excitement, some shouting encouragement. Before he could overthink it, Charlie turned to the microphone that had been left swinging in Zara's wake. "Ladies and gentlemen, I may not have a superpower, but I do have a super lunch," he declared, holding up the offending sandwich. What followed was a whirlwind. A video of Charlie's impromptu speech went viral, tagging him as the unlikely underdog in a race dominated by superhumans. He was dubbed the everyman candidate, and as absurd as it sounded, people loved it. His email inbox exploded with messages of support and encouragement, and soon he found himself surrounded by a ragtag team of supporters, including his best friend, Maya, who was never short on ideas or enthusiasm. "Charlie, you've got to run," Maya urged, her eyes shining with determination. "This is your moment. You're like the Superman of the normal folks." "Except without any actual powers," Charlie replied dryly, scratching his head. "Exactly." Maya laughed. "That's what makes you relatable. You can show them that true leadership isn't about flying or fireballs. It's about courage and heart." And just like that, Charlie was thrust into the world of political campaigning, armed only with his charm, quick wit, and a half-eaten sandwich. The first thing he did was to gather his motley crew for a brainstorming session in his cramped apartment, which was barely larger than a broom closet. "Okay, team," Charlie announced, standing on a wobbly chair like a captain preparing his crew for battle. "We need a slogan. Something catchy. How about, no powers, just people?" Maya shouted, raising her fist as if she'd just solved world hunger. The room erupted in cheers, and that became the foundation of Charlie's campaign. It was a simple mantra that resonated with a public tired of glitzy powers overshadowing real issues like affordable housing, education, and community support. As Charlie's campaign began to gain traction, he faced an onslaught of obstacles. Zara, threatened by his growing popularity, dispatched her campaign team to smear his name. They leaked a video where he was seen fumbling with his words during an early morning interview, his hair a mess, and his eyes bleary from sleepless nights spent planning rallies. The media jumped on it, spinning the narrative that he was unfit for leadership, but Charlie wasn't one to back down. He pulled a trick from his own hat, a community event called Super Stories, where ordinary people could share their extraordinary experiences. The event showcased local heroes who had made real changes without any superpowers, inspiring everyone who attended. "I don't have the ability to fly," Charlie told the crowd at the first event, "but I can help lift our community off the ground." His down-to-earth approach struck a chord, and attendance surged with every passing week. As the campaign heated up, Charlie found himself facing Zara in debates that drew massive audiences. She dazzled with her charm and superpowered rhetoric, while Charlie relied on humor and relatability. "If you elect me," he said during one debate, "I promise to make decisions based on what's best for people, not what looks good on a holographic advertisement." The media framed it as a classic battle, the charismatic superwoman versus the ordinary man. But the more Zara pushed her powers, the more Charlie emphasized that real strength comes from vulnerability and connection. Then came the day of the final debate, a highly anticipated showdown held in the largest venue imaginable. The lights were blinding, and the energy in the room crackled with anticipation. As the debate commenced, Zara confidently flaunted her powers, seamlessly weaving her superhuman feats into her arguments. But midway through, disaster struck. A sudden power outage caused the stage lights to flicker and die, plunging the auditorium into darkness. The audience gasped, murmurs spreading like wildfire. Zara stumbled, disoriented without her usual visual cues. In stark contrast, Charlie stood firm, his heart pounding but his mind clear. "Looks like we're all just humans after all," he quipped, breaking the silence. Laughter erupted from the crowd, cutting through the tension. "Let's talk about what really matters," he continued, his voice steady in the dim light. "Leadership is about being there for your community, even when the lights go out." In that moment, Charlie connected with the audience on a level Zara could never reach. He shared stories of everyday struggles, of neighbors helping each other during tough times, and of the kind of leadership that wasn't flashy but grounded in compassion. When the lights flickered back on, the atmosphere had shifted. Charlie had taken the audience's hearts by storm, and Zara's facade began to crack. As election day approached, Charlie's grassroots movement gained momentum. His campaign was a whirlwind of laughter, community gatherings, and relatable messaging, and he began to feel something he hadn't felt in a long time: hope. On the night of the election results, Charlie gathered his supporters in a community center, the air thick with anticipation. Everyone was buzzing with excitement, some nervously tapping their phones for updates. As the final results came in, it was clear that Charlie had captured the hearts of the people. He didn't win the election, but he had made a significant impact. While Zara took the crown, Charlie's campaign had sparked a movement that couldn't be ignored. People rallied around him, chanting, "No powers, just people," as he took to the stage for his closing remarks. "Thank you for believing in the power of community," he said, voice strong and full of conviction. "We may not have superpowers, but together, we can do extraordinary things. Let's continue to fight for what really matters, and remember that true leadership isn't about strength, it's about heart." The crowd erupted in applause, and for the first time, Charlie felt the warmth of true connection. He didn't need superpowers to be a leader, he just needed to be himself. In the months that followed, Charlie became a local hero, a voice for the voiceless, and an inspiration to those who felt ordinary in a world that glorified the extraordinary. He found his place in the community, organizing more events, spreading laughter, and proving that even without powers, one person could ignite change. As he stood before a crowd once more, sharing stories of resilience and connection, he realized that true leadership wasn't about winning an election. It was about uplifting others, showing courage in the face of adversity, and reminding everyone that sometimes, the greatest strength comes from simply being human. And as he delivered his closing lines, the memory of that flying sandwich became a cherished part of his story, a reminder that sometimes, the most unexpected moments lead to the greatest adventures. Charlie stood on the makeshift stage, the warm glow of the community center lights casting a reassuring aura around him. The crowd, a vibrant tapestry of familiar faces, buzzed with excitement, each person invested in this newfound sense of hope. It had been a whirlwind journey since that chaotic day when his sandwich had unwittingly launched him into the limelight, and now, he found himself not just a candidate but a symbol of something larger than himself. As the cheers began to settle, he took a deep breath, feeling the weight of their expectations but also the thrill of shared purpose. "I want to thank you all for your support," he started, his voice steady and warm. "It's been an incredible experience, one I never expected when I first walked on that stage looking for my lunch." Laughter rippled through the audience, and Charlie couldn't help but smile. "I may not have powers, but I've learned that our true strength lies in each other," he continued, sharing stories of the people he had met along the way. There was Mrs. Henderson, the elderly woman from down the street, who started a community garden that became a hub for neighbors to connect. And then there was Miguel, the young artist who organized art classes for local kids, using creativity to transform their lives. Each story reinforced his message: power wasn't in the extraordinary but in the everyday actions that built community and resilience. As he spoke, he noticed Maya in the front row, her face glowing with pride. She had been his rock throughout the campaign, and her unwavering belief in him fueled his fire. After the event, she bounded up to him, her excitement contagious. "Did you see their faces? You were amazing." "Thanks, Maya," he replied, still riding the high of the moment. "It feels incredible to connect with everyone like that." As the night progressed, the atmosphere shifted from campaign mode to celebration. The community center was alive with laughter, music, and the delicious aroma of food from local vendors who had set up shop outside. Charlie mingled with supporters, sharing hugs and high fives, his heart swelling with gratitude. A few weeks later, as he settled back into his routine, he found that his life had transformed in subtle yet profound ways. His phone buzzed constantly with messages of encouragement and invitations to speak at various community events. He was no longer just Charlie Wells, the ordinary office worker. He was becoming a community leader, a voice for those who felt unheard. One day, while sipping coffee at his favorite cafe, he overheard a group of teenagers talking about his campaign. "I love how he just used his everyday life to make a point," one girl said, excitement in her voice. "He's not like the other candidates who just flex their powers." Charlie's heart skipped. He hadn't anticipated the impact his candidacy would have, especially on younger generations. It was thrilling to think that his journey might inspire someone else to stand up for their community, just as he had. Motivated by this newfound purpose, he decided to organize a youth summit, inviting young people from across the city to share their ideas on improving their neighborhoods. The event turned out to be a resounding success, bringing together kids from diverse backgrounds, each eager to contribute to the dialogue. As they brainstormed solutions, Charlie felt invigorated. He facilitated discussions, encouraging them to voice their opinions and ideas. One young boy suggested creating a mentorship program where older students could guide younger ones. Another girl proposed a clean-up initiative for their local park, highlighting the need for green spaces in the urban sprawl. Their enthusiasm was infectious. Charlie realized that empowering these young voices wasn't just about giving them a platform, it was about creating a legacy of leadership that extended beyond himself. Weeks turned into months, and with each event, the community grew closer. Charlie's influence spread, and he found himself invited to more panels and discussions about the future of their city. One day, he received a call from a local news station asking if he'd be willing to guest on a popular talk show. When the day of the show arrived, Charlie stood backstage, nerves bubbling in his stomach. He adjusted his tie, reminding himself that he was just sharing his story, no superpowers necessary. As he walked out into the bright lights and smiling faces, he felt the familiar rush of adrenaline. The host greeted him warmly, and the conversation flowed effortlessly. They discussed his campaign, the importance of community, and how genuine connections could inspire change. "It's funny," he said, leaning into the microphone, "people often think they need extraordinary abilities to make a difference. But I believe that each of us has the potential to be extraordinary in our own way, through kindness, courage, and a little creativity." The audience clapped enthusiastically, and Charlie reveled in the moment. He shared anecdotes about the Super Stories events and the Youth Summit, hoping to inspire others to recognize the power of their voices. After the show, the feedback was overwhelming. Viewers reached out, thanking him for sharing his perspective and reminding them of the beauty of community. Social media exploded with hashtags like "No Powers Just People," and Charlie felt a sense of responsibility to keep that momentum alive. But amidst the excitement, Charlie faced his own challenges. As Zara settled into her role as the elected official, he noticed the subtle shifts in the community dynamics. While she had a grand vision for the city, it often felt distant from the everyday concerns of residents. Many of the initiatives she pushed forward seemed to cater more to her superpowered allies rather than the ordinary citizens who had supported him. Charlie began to voice these concerns in public forums, advocating for policies that addressed the real needs of the community. He organized town hall meetings, inviting residents to share their thoughts directly with local officials. It was clear that his candidacy had not only created a platform for himself but had opened doors for others to step up and make their voices heard. One particularly impactful meeting was held in the heart of a neighborhood that had been overlooked for years. Residents spoke passionately about their desire for better public services, parks for children, and job opportunities. Charlie listened intently, taking notes and offering support where he could. As he left the meeting, Maya walked beside him, her brow furrowed. "You know, Charlie, you're becoming a real thorn in Zara's side," she said, a playful glint in her eye. He chuckled, though he felt the weight of her words. "I'm just trying to keep the conversation going, you know. If I can help bring people together to advocate for change, then I'm doing something right." Maya nodded, her expression shifting to one of admiration. "You've really found your voice. It's inspiring to see how much you've grown since this all started." Charlie smiled, feeling a mix of pride and gratitude. "I owe it all to the people. They've reminded me of what it means to care for one another." As the months rolled on, Charlie's passion for community engagement blossomed into a full-fledged movement. He rallied volunteers, created initiatives focused on local needs, and worked with other grassroots organizations to amplify their voices. Each project, from neighborhood cleanups to workshops on civic engagement, fortified the belief that ordinary citizens could create extraordinary change. But amid all the progress, Zara's administration began to push back. She deployed her influence to drown out voices like Charlie's, emphasizing her powers and the flashy projects that garnered media attention. Charlie could sense the tension rising, the divide between those who supported her and those who believed in his vision for a more inclusive community. One evening, as he sat with Maya at their favorite cafe, he recounted the challenges he faced. "It's frustrating. It feels like I'm constantly trying to prove that we don't need superpowers to make a difference." Maya leaned back, contemplative. Maybe it's time to shift the narrative. Instead of fighting against her powers, why not showcase the strength of our community? Make it about unity, not division. Charlie considered her words. "You're right. We need to demonstrate that our collective voices are stronger than any individual power. It's time to take our message to the streets." Determined to shift the tide, Charlie organized a massive rally to celebrate community spirit and inclusivity. He reached out to local artists, musicians, and activists to create a festival atmosphere that would draw in crowds from all walks of life. When the day arrived, the park was a kaleidoscope of colors, music echoing through the air, and laughter mingling with the scent of food from local vendors. Charlie stood at the front, soaking in the vibrant energy. People began to gather, filling the space, their excitement palpable. As he took to the stage, he felt a surge of gratitude. "This isn't just a rally, it's a celebration of who we are," he declared, voice amplified by enthusiasm. "Today, we're showing that our community is our greatest superpower. We may not fly or shoot fire, but we can uplift one another in ways that truly matter." The crowd erupted in cheers, and for the first time in months, Charlie felt the tide turning. Stories were shared, performances captivated, and conversations flowed freely. People came together, igniting a spark of unity that even Zara's administration couldn't ignore. In the weeks following the rally, something remarkable happened. Local media began to spotlight community initiatives that had previously gone unnoticed. Stories of resilience, creativity, and the strength of the collective began to shift the narrative. Zara found herself in a position where she had to respond, and Charlie's presence was undeniable. Eventually, during a city council meeting, Zara announced a new initiative to support local businesses and community projects, crediting the growing public demand for a more inclusive approach. Charlie couldn't help but feel a mix of satisfaction and concern. While it was a step in the right direction, he also recognized that true change required more than just temporary gestures. It required sustained commitment and collaboration, but Charlie was undeterred. He continued to advocate for policies that aligned with his vision, pressing for transparency and accountability within local government. The community had shown their power, and he was determined to keep that momentum alive. One sunny afternoon, as he walked through the park, he spotted a familiar face, Miguel, the young artist who had inspired so many. They exchanged greetings, and Miguel's enthusiasm was infectious. "Charlie, I've been working on a mural project that captures our community's spirit. I'd love for you to be involved." "That sounds incredible," Charlie replied, excitement bubbling within him. "Let's turn it into a community event. We can get everyone involved, share our stories through art." Miguel's eyes lit up. "Exactly. Let's show that art can be a powerful tool for change, just like our voices." Together, they organized a weekend mural event, inviting artists, families, and community members to contribute their stories and creativity. The park transformed into a vibrant canvas, each stroke representing a piece of their collective journey. As Charlie painted alongside children and families, he marveled at how far they had come. The community was more than just a backdrop to his story. It had become a living, breathing entity that pulsed with energy and hope. In the months that followed, the mural became a symbol of unity, inspiring similar projects throughout the city. Charlie found himself becoming a sought-after speaker at schools and community centers, sharing the importance of collective action and the power of grassroots movements. But as the momentum built, Zara's administration took notice. A press conference was scheduled, and Charlie found himself invited to share his perspective alongside her. The media buzzed with anticipation as they both took the stage, the air thick with tension. Zara, ever the polished politician, began with her usual flair, discussing her vision for the city. When it was Charlie's turn, he leaned into the microphone, heart racing. "While I appreciate the direction we're headed, it's vital to remember that real change happens at the grassroots level. Our community's voices must remain at the forefront of our efforts." The crowd erupted in applause, and Zara's smile faltered for just a moment. In that moment, Charlie realized how far he had come, from the ordinary office worker who stumbled onto a stage to a community leader who challenged the status quo. As the press conference wrapped up, the realization hit him: he wasn't just fighting for recognition, he was building a legacy of resilience, one that empowered others to rise alongside him. Days turned into weeks, and the city began to shift. More residents engaged in local governance, demanding transparency and accountability. Charlie's journey had sparked a movement that rippled through the community, encouraging people to realize that they, too, had the power to affect change. As he stood in front of the mural one final time, the vibrant colors swaying gently in the breeze, Charlie reflected on everything that had transpired. The initial chaos of that day, when his sandwich had spiraled into a political journey, had transformed into something profound. He was no longer just a candidate, he was a catalyst for community connection, and as he prepared to address the crowd one last time, he felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. The laughter, the struggles, the connections, it had all woven together to create a tapestry of hope. Today, we stand not just as individuals but as a community united, he began, the crowd hanging on his every word. Our stories are our superpowers. Together, we can build a brighter future, one where every voice matters and every dream has the chance to soar. The applause that followed was thunderous, echoing through the park and beyond, a testament to the power of ordinary people coming together to create extraordinary change. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with hues of orange and pink, Charlie knew this was just the beginning. The journey ahead was uncertain, but he felt ready to face it, supported by the community that had embraced him, empowered by the belief that together, they could overcome any obstacle. The future stretched before them like a canvas, waiting to be filled with vibrant colors and stories of resilience, and he couldn't wait to see what they would create together.